Hey everyone, really excited that you're joining us today for this webinar. Really looking forward to it. While we're waiting for everyone to log in and get settled, maybe we'll do a quick round of introductions. My name's Sandro, or Mayo, as you might hear Janine refer to me today, my work nickname. I'm part of the sales enablement team here at Frontify, and I'm joined today by Janine, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Janine. I'm part of the UK sales team and I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're really excited that you're joining us. Janine's here as our product expert today. She's going to be showing us a couple of things within the platform later. All right, looks like we've got some more people here now, so I think we can get started.
Great
What are
to
we here for
start.
today? Hopefully you already know obviously why you're joining this webinar. We're here to talk about brand asset management and how BAM is the future of them. So let's jump into a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about. We'll give you a very brief introduction into who Frontify is, but hopefully all of you have already heard of us, have maybe checked out our website, so we'll keep this very brief. We'll show you what Frontify is, and then the really big part that Janine's going to do. This is Frontify. We'll jump into the product and show you a couple of things right in there. So without any further ado, who is Frontify? Very quick, like I said, we're a Swiss company. We were founded back in 2013 in the small city of St. Gallen in eastern Switzerland. Still have our headquarters here, and we also have offices in Frankfurt, Germany, and in New York. Have grown rapidly to 125 plus employees as of now. And yeah, if you want to know anything more about us, we're really happy to answer those questions. So also during the webinar, if you have any questions that are related to the product or anything we talk about, please do drop those questions in here. We'll take some time to answer them either during the webinar or at the very end of it. And yeah, let us know if you want to know more about the company. But I think for now, we'll focus on the product. So what is Frontify? And what are we talking about today? As you can see here, we've got the full Frontify product suite depicted. And obviously, we want to talk about DAM and BAM. So for classic DAM, most of you probably already work with one or already know what it is. Classic digital asset management. You have your videos, your images, maybe some documents stored in a central place and distribute them that way to all of your customers. And we want to show you how Frontify approaches DAM. As you can see here, we have separated different libraries. So we've got our media library for your classic images and videos. We also have our icon library for specifically icons, documents specifically to manage all kinds of documents, and the logo library obviously for logos. And then also on top of that, obviously, as you also know from other DAM systems, integrations is a big part of that as well, because you want this to be linked to other systems. And so what we want to show you now is how we go from digital asset management to brand asset management. So first off, as you can see, these libraries are obviously a big part of it. And the really big part of it as well is the interaction between all of the different areas. So what we add to it, the basis of our entire product is the style guide, where you'd have your brand guidelines. So anything you do within the system is linked to that. So for example, if you were to download your icons, they can be downloaded in exactly the colors that you have defined in your style guide. So you always stay on brand with whatever you do, obviously, big topic here. And then on top of just having these libraries, we also want people to really be able to understand what the brand is all about. You want to have training aspect. So again, that's what the guidelines are all about. You want to make sure that people know how to use the assets instead of just being able to download the assets and then not really knowing what to do with them. And at the very end of it, we also have the workspace. That's a big part of it. So that's for collaboration, it's for approvals. So whether that's before adding an asset into the DAM, you obviously want to make sure you have it reviewed. You want to make sure it's really perfect before you start distributing it to people. But also at the very end of it, as people start using these assets, again, they've understood how to use them through your guidelines, but you still want to have that overview aspect. So you can use the workspace to really give approval and review, collaborate on anything that is created with the assets. And then again, integrations, huge topic as well, obviously, within brand asset management. So Janine, did I miss anything? Does that about sum it up?
I think what sums it up really nice, yeah, is that I just really aims at providing context and engagement around the digital assets, but not only digital assets, but really offline and online content. So it's really, yeah, like making sure that it's cross that you can cross reference, cross check digital assets across different departments and really involve all the different stakeholders.
Yeah, different departments, obviously, big topic there as well. I think the interaction between different people, you might have your marketing team already managing your DAM, but you also want to bring your designers on there. You want to bring your developers on there. You really want everyone in the company to engage with this. And obviously that's
Exactly,
where
yeah.
we want to go with brand asset management. And then just to quickly complete the story, what you can also see, part of our product suite that we're not going to go into today is the pattern library. And the publisher, we will really quickly touch upon the publisher because it kind of concludes the story very nicely, but we're obviously going to be really focused on the whole BAM aspect. All right, quick slide to summarize what we were just saying. Obviously, if you already are using a DAM, I think that's a great step. It's definitely going in the right direction. You want to bring some order to chaos. You want to centralize your assets. You want to make them available for everyone, and also be able to create an archive of what have we had in the past, but also current, what do we have right now, how, what can we share out. But the really big step, again, for BAM, from DAM to BAM especially, is increasing the understanding and the engagement around the brand, increasing interaction between all the products that you have within this suite, but also interaction between all of the different stakeholders that are involved in it. You want to make your brand more sustainable by really offering that training, that understanding, that know-how base, so that people can really know, how your brand works, and everyone's able to create engaging brand content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just so much more than just storing, organizing, and sharing your assets. So it just is a lot bigger topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to show you how to do that with Frontify, and we'll quickly kind of go through the theory on a quick example, and then we'll make sure that we can show you in real life after. So obviously, looking at a simple example here, you might have a social media post. So, obviously you need your brand essentials for that. So you want those to be centralized. You want to be able to have a single source of truth, and you want to involve, again, everyone that needs to be involved while still maintaining that oversight. So how do you do that with Frontify? Obviously, first step, again, kind of the libraries that we already mentioned. You need your logo, you need an image, you need other kind of assets maybe. You obviously need some icons. You also maybe need some text that's already pre-approved, so you don't need to get copywriters involved. So all of that, you have all of your libraries right there, and an easy, again, single source of truth where you can find it. But that next step that we mentioned before with bringing on the style guide, for example, as you're doing this, you obviously also need your colors, you need your fonts. So you want a single place to find all of that. You want to know what to use. We're going to use the example for later where you bring on a freelancer. So, how do you do that? You want to make sure that that person knows everything about your brand so they can do the work that they need to do. So that's where you want that training aspect of the style guide. And then at the end, still keep that oversight. You want to be able to have that approval workflow, have a nice process, have a collaboration process, again, to keep an eye on what this person's doing. So yeah, that's in theory, but I'm really more excited about this part. I think we're going to look at this in a practical example with Janine. I think you're going to talk to us about business cards, right?
Yeah, I mean, the business card is such a great example of like how everything ties together and really starts creating that seamless story once you actually start using the different components and modules of the platform and really see how they all actually are connected and really try to facilitate and make the lives of brand managers, but all different stakeholders with regards to branding a lot easier. So we're going to use that example along the platform and really make sure that, yeah, we always come back to the example of the business card and show you how these actually could then be created within Frontify.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
I'd say let's switch over to you and take it away.
Okay. So as a starting point, I think it's a really good idea to just do a 2-minute quick recap and overview of how the platform ties together. So once we then start jumping from like this backstage area where you built everything up to the consumer view, that you don't get confused and yeah, you know which area of the environment we're actually in right now. So you have to think of me wearing an editor hat, so someone who's actually building up the site, who has ownership over it, who's really like the guardian of the brand before we jump into the consumer view. And what you see right now is a brand dashboard. And I'm going to jump actually into our own Frontify environment, which we're using today. So we use Frontify on a daily basis. And I just want to use it as an example to really show you how we use it and how it involves all the different stakeholders. So I've jumped into a brand, and you can see I have 3 tabs up here. So we have the guidelines tab, which Mayo said is like the heart of the platform. But then we also have the project space, which is already kind of tying into that BAM story. So really making sure that you can create projects around all different brand related topics, and make sure that then those assets are later pushed into the different libraries or into the guidelines, depending on which parts they're relevant to. And then we have the library area, and I think this is also where we're going to then start out with, like, this is the digital asset management part of the platform, but it's actually so much more. So it's not just a media library. We have so many different libraries that really tie into the product, as Maya already said. So we have libraries dedicated to different types of assets. So we have a dedicated icon library, a dedicated document library, text library, etc. And they all have individual features which really make the lives of those assets easier and really just cater towards their needs as well. So yeah, this is really the backstage area. And if we look at what it looks like in a consumer view, how that translates, I've opened up a second tab so we can jump back and forth. So this is the consumer view. So when someone as a viewer logs in, as someone who consumes and downloads content, the first thing they would see is a cover page, so an entry gateway into your brand. And this is really most often used as a news fed. So maybe if you have like 20 new icons and you want to tease it, you can have direct links here. It's customizable. You can add motion. Frontify works with inline editing. If you're interested in how that works, we can definitely set up a demo and actually look at how everything is built up. But this is really not part of today's topic. And then Frontify ties everything together. So the guidelines right up here, you can see it in top hand navigation. We have 2 guidelines documents, identity and guidelines, and then all the different libraries that we set up are now linked to the front end here. So our image libraries, which is our media library, then the icon library, logo library, etc. And that are all linked to the front end. And I think it would really make sense, Maya, if we really start with the libraries and see that you don't really compromise if you go for a BAM. So you still have all like the digital asset management features, but it's actually so much more.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a big topic that we want to show quickly.
Yeah. So I'm in the backstage area again. So if we just look at the library tabs, we already have pre-created libraries, obviously, but you would just click on new and create a new media library. I'm going to jump straight ahead into our actual media library. So the media library works exactly the same way as a classical DAM. So you can basically store, categorize, and share different assets. You can add metadata. You can bulk edit content. You can set metadata and settings on an entire library level, or even down on an asset level. You can create different collections. But what's really, really nice is that you can now also add different workflow features. So you can actually directly collaborate within the libraries. So you can customize a workflow that you can make sure that all your assets go through an approval process. You can invite different stakeholders to that platform. You can give them different roles. You can give them temporary access if they would be a freelancer, for example, and you can then really make sure that you add life cycles, different metadata, use AI tagging, so really all the classical DAM functions. And if we look at those business cards, I have mine actually right here. You see we have these really nice illustrations, and if we jump into the consumer view and have a look at what those illustrations actually look like, and how the whole media library translates in the front end, you can see while we have folder structure in the back end, we really try and get away from that in a consumer view, because you might have different stakeholders. You might have journalists entering the site, internal employees from different departments, and not everyone is probably well versed with your own internal folder structure. So we really make sure that we use the search functions as well as collections to guide the consumer through the process of narrowing down those assets that they need to find. And you can see we actually have a collection of illustrations right here, which I'm going to click into. So you can see all those illustrations are actually part of our media library and then tie into the template that creates our business cards. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it obviously makes. Again, I just wanted to repeat, if someone feels like it doesn't make sense, drop us some questions so we can answer them. But I think, yeah, this shows exactly, that what you said, you don't lose any DAM functionality by going for a BAM. You only add stuff on top. So, in the end, you want to have an easy tool where people can quickly find what they need. And that's easily possible like this.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like really, really important. And I think that's something that generally goes into our product and translates so well that our mission really is to make sure anyone can use it, and with the consumer in mind, making sure that, yeah, the experience is just great in terms of finding assets, finding your way around, navigating yourself through the platform.
Nice. And I see there's actually one question that came in
Yeah.
that maybe we can quickly answer right now. Someone's asking, how do you control who has access to what? I think that's obviously a big topic.
That is a very big topic. So both in terms of the different libraries, if someone might have ownership over a library and then you invite different people, but also in the consumer view, because you don't want to have 10 different portals and 10 different access rights. You really just want to have one portal and then manages who gets to see what within that portal. So a good example might be that maybe 20% of your portal is available to the public, and then maybe 50% to all your employees, and then maybe dedicated areas are just available to specific departments or your agency that you might be doing a rebranding with or something like that. So in terms of giving access to people in the different projects, I can directly jump into a project, and I'm going to use the illustrations as an example again. So if we, for example, create new illustrations, we would obviously create a new project. We already have an illustration project here. And if I jump into it, I would then give different access rights. So this could also be a freelancer that simply only has access to this part of the environment. So you can really micromanage where they have access to. Or you could then also within the project say, hey, this project is really bound to a style guide document that we have, and we kind of want to allocate that document to the project and make sure that everyone who has access to the project also has access to that part of the guidelines. And then you can obviously give them different roles. So some people might be viewers, editors, owners, translators, reviewers, etc. So that would be in terms of the project. Now, if we invite a freelancer to create some new illustrations, we might upload a briefing into the projects, and we might have a customized workflow. But then if that freelancer is invited to the project and wants to actually create a new illustrations, they might have to consult the guidelines. And that's, again, where it's really important to make sure that you ensure that different people see different content on your environment. So you can actually, within the project, jump directly back into the guidelines, which I've done now. And if I jump into the guidelines, I'm just going to jump into edit mode. As I said, Frontify works with inline editing, but just to demonstrate how easily it is to define who gets to see what. And that is a huge BAM topic as well, making sure that you not only give context, but engagement across your brand assets. So I jumped into edit mode, and you can not only define on a really high level on the top end navigation who sees what, but you can also do it down to a content block. So if our freelancer is on the site, we really want to make sure that they have access to this part of the guidelines. And as you can see with our target feature right here, this area is actually available to freelancers. So you can really define who gets to see what. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is obviously a really big topic, and I think it ties into what you were saying. You bring on that freelancer, you want to be able to train them around what is our brand all about, and then also, what guidelines do you need to stick to, what assets you need to even create these business card, what already exists, so you can make sure people don't kind of do redundant jobs that have already been done. So, really straightforward, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's really all about, right? Providing that context. So the freelancer that you mentioned that might create our new illustrations, that person would probably first and foremost check our media library, see what's available there. Then they would consult the guidelines and like really try and understand what our brand is all about, what our identity is, what our tonalities, what we're trying to communicate. They might look at our color palette to check what the icons, what colors the icon should be in. They might check out our imagery and see if there's any definitions on what the illustration should look like, if there's any guidelines, any do's and don'ts, things like that. So they would really consult the guidelines, maybe also use the search to see if there's already an example of a business card. And you can see we're still in the guidelines part. This is really, again, showing you how that seamless story is created within Frontify, pulling all different areas together. Since you can actually then directly create your business card within Frontify once the designer has created that template for us. So yeah, they would basically, as a first step, consult what's already there. And then in the project space, if we jump back into the project, they might have a briefing with some more instructions, and then they would probably upload their first versions. And we would then also make sure that everyone who's involved in that project actually gets a stake in it and is allowed to give feedback and collaborate. So if I jump into our workflow, you can see an overview. This workflow is customizable, is also part of the libraries, but it really gives you an overview of the different illustrations that have been uploaded, and then you can assign different ownership, different tasks. The freelancer can request approvals or request feedback from our side, and it really gives you a nice back and forth between all the different stakeholders. And again, bringing up that BAM topic, making sure that it's engagement not in a separate space, but actually directly tied to your guidelines, to your digital assets, making sure that that is all in one place. Yeah, and if we
Yeah.
jump into an asset just to show you how that collaboration aspect works, you can see on the left-hand side in the toolbar, not only can you comment and request feedback, but you can also jump into different versions. And depending on what tool you're using, you can actually just directly upload revisions from your design tool, so Sketch, for example. And then you can really look at the different versions. So I'm jumping back, you can see here, this brand, this yellow is obviously horribly off brand just for illustration purposes. But you could then actually say and look back at the feedbacks and say, hey, you should really consult our guidelines to make sure that you're using the right yellow. And you can really go through all the different versions and see what has happened. And once it's approved, push it directly into your media library and make it then available to the larger target audiences for consumption.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point there. I mean, obviously with this yellow, it was quite easy to tell that it's not on brand, but neither one of us is a designer, but yet we constantly engage with our brand. We're on there on a daily basis, consulting guidelines, finding assets. And I think that's such a big topic. You can engage people who usually wouldn't be engaged with the branding topic to really understand what it's all about, and train them to see things like, okay, hang on, colors, fonts, whatever, this might be off. We really need to adjust this. And that's basically where you want to end up with the brand asset management.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in general, we want to make sure that branding is not an isolated topic, but it's a topic that everyone's involved in. And the more you're on that single source of truth and on that platform, the more you're involved with a brand, as you said. I mean, just me in sales, the amount of times I'm on the site daily, like downloading PDF files to send out to clients or sending them directly via the platform, or getting the contracts from there, making sure you don't have to save it on your desktop. You know, like the most up-to-date version is on there. And because you're on Frontify so much, you start understanding what the brand is trying to communicate. And it also helps me then, like when I create my own PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think we've already used up quite a bit of time, so maybe we can sort of tie the story together, give a quick outlook also, you know, what we'd do with this illustration now, and briefly show the publisher perhaps.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going back to this little business cards right here, and you can see, I mean, Maya already said it in the presentations, you know, it's really all about integrating copy with the text library, integrating the logo library, putting the illustrations into the media library, and then pulling all of these different assets to create a template for business cards. And it's really not just business cards, it's really a bigger story of pulling assets from all different areas of the platform, pulling the colors from the guidelines and making sure that the guidelines are adhered to, and then making sure that we free up the designer's time by making everything possibly available to the employees and empowering them to actually create their own marketing collateral, be it HR, posting jobs, on LinkedIn, and making sure that those postings are on brand, or business cards, vouchers, flyers. So really little things that we want to free the designer's time with, making sure that the designer can upload a template onto Frontify, and then restrict different areas, and then making sure the target audiences that has access to that can actually then create their own business cards. So if we jump back into our guidelines, me as an employee, I would then go on to Frontify, which I do so much every day. I'd search for business card. I'd find this area of the guidelines. I'm in the materials section, stationaries, and I would click on create your customized business card. And then I would actually create my new business cards and change the different areas that I'm allowed to change. Change out the illustrations, maybe to that really cool soccer player that we now have, and then print it, send it directly to my desk with our Gelato integration, which is really cool. Or if it's something that is web to web, we would obviously download it and then publish it. So yeah, this was, I mean, a super brief overview. I know it's not very in depth, but it's really also just meant to show you that a BAM is really what will future-proof you for the next steps, and that's something what you really should be looking out for, or should really challenge us for. And yeah, I'd be really happy to continue the conversation, and I'm gonna hand over to Mayo again for the final part of our webinar today.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for showing all of that. And I actually need some new business cards, so I'm quite looking forward to getting on the system and using that new soccer player that we have.
You should,
All right.
definitely.
All right. Yeah. So just some takeaways from today's session, I think that we quickly wanted to point out. You know, hopefully we're able to show how BAM is a future-proof DAM, you know, a tool that can really help you out going forwards, creating also that brand engagement that's so important. I think we see it so often these days. You know, there's a lot of companies that have really increased their company value simply by having a great brand, by getting each and every single one in the company to engage with that brand. And you know, that's what you want. You want everyone in the company to be able to create those compelling and consistent brand stories. You want them to understand what your brand's all about. And at the end of the day, you know, what we wanted to show you is Frontify as a tool, so you can make a good decision. You can pick whatever tool you want to use in the future wisely. And if you have questions, if you'd like to see how Frontify applies to your specific use case, we'd be more than happy to show that to you. And you know, hopefully we can leave you with that. Anything to add to that, Janine?
I think that sounds good. It sums it up really nicely. I mean, it's really just making sure that everyone understands what we see as difference between DAM versus BAM, and yeah, hopefully just sparking some really interesting conversations.
Nice. Yeah, like we said, we hope you have some questions that you will post. I saw there's already a couple that came in. If you have any more questions, post them now. We won't have time to answer all of them right now, but we'll definitely get back to you in written form. So keep the questions coming, and thanks to everyone that already posted their questions. I think one question I do quickly want to touch upon, someone asked about our integrations, because obviously mentioned that. I don't think we need to go into detail which integrations we have, but maybe just in 2 sentences, Frontify and integration, what's our philosophy, Janine?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2020 is generally really about integrations for us, so we're really big on that. In general, we're really trying to be design agnostic, so we're trying to make sure that whatever design tool you want to use, you can really then make sure that you can pull those assets directly from Frontify and yeah, use it as your single source of truth.
Yeah, I think it's all about, the brand at the core of everything you do, and in that sense, Frontify at the core of what you're doing. I think that's what our integrations are all about.
Yeah,
All right,
that is done really nicely.
let's wrap it up here. If you would like to know more about Frontify, we have a lot of really interesting webinars. So whether you're looking to bridge the gap between your designers and developers, or if you're working at an agency and you want to see how Frontify can help you, head on over to our webinars page, check out the recordings. And while you're at it, maybe you want to sign up for a personalized demo so you can have that discussion with Janine and figure out how Frontify can help in your specific case, right?
That would be great. Yeah, I'd love that.
All right. Yeah. So we're looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you so much, Janine, for joining us today, for taking the time to show us how this works. And thank you so much to everyone who was watching. It was a pleasure, and we look forward to answering your questions and hopefully having some calls in the future.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun. So yeah, everyone have a really good time and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.